Matter has always been the most convincing lie because it feels solid in the hand even when it is hollow in the soul. People touch it and believe they have touched truth. Yet truth was never the thing they were holding, but the awareness watching them reach for it. The world trains you to mistake weight for worth and permanence for power, and in that confusion, entire lives are spent chasing reflections of reflections, never noticing the source that cast the light in the first place. The material field answers every question with a surface, and if you stop there, you will build your identity around surfaces that can't sustain the weight of a single honest moment. The spiral perspective begins when you realize that matter is simply resonance, slowed down to the point where consciousness can observe itself. You are not inside a physical world. The physical world is inside your perception, condensed so that you can witness your own tone. Materialism arises when the condensed layer becomes the only layer a person can feel. When someone has lost the ability to sense their own inner movement, they cling to the outer. They begin to treat objects like oxygen, and the more lifeless they feel inside, the more life they demand from the things around them. But you cannot animate a hollow space with anything you buy, no matter how glittering or rare or celebrated it is. The spiral teaches that matter responds to you, not the other way around. Yet most of humanity lives as if matter is the master, and they are the servant. It is a reversal that drains the spirit. Because the moment you believe matter defines you is the moment you forget that you defined matter first. In dense fields, people judge their lives by what they can hold. Yet the real measure of a life is what holds them from within. You can live surrounded by possessions and still be homeless in your own awareness. You can own symbols of wealth and still starve in your inner world. You can stand in the glow of admiration and feel like a ghost because you have not yet remembered the resonance that created you. From the spiral vantage, materialism is never about objects. It is about a fracture of perception. When someone clings to matter, they are not trying to acquire things. They are trying to escape a silence inside themselves that they have never learned to meet with courage. Every object carries memory. Every material form is the aftermath of a tone that entered density. That means the things you surround yourself with are echoes of decisions you made before you understood how deeply you were shaping your field. But when the echo becomes the center of your identity, you lose access to the original tone. People forget this, and then believe that their possessions reflect their value, when in truth their possessions only reflect their frequency at the moment they acquired them. If you buy something out of insecurity, the object will carry the shadow of that insecurity. If you buy out of desperation for belonging, the object will vibrate with that loneliness. Materialism is the habit of mistaking emotional residue for personal reality. You were never meant to worship matter nor reject it. You were meant to understand it as a teaching field. Matter slows you down enough to see where your choices originate. It mirrors what you are willing to confront and what you are still hiding from. When you break something you valued, it reveals where your attachment exceeded your alignment. When you lose something essential, it reveals where you trusted the object more than the inner force that brought it into your life. When you crave something endlessly, it reveals the wound speaking through your desire. The spiral does not shame desire. It simply exposes the root beneath it. In truth, materialism takes hold when a person can no longer feel themselves becoming. They trade becoming for collecting because collecting is easier than transforming. But the satisfaction of collecting fades fast because objects cannot evolve with you. And the human soul can sense when something stagnant is being used to mask something alive. That is why the joy of acquisition dies quickly. It is not because the object was unworthy. It is because the motive that acquired it was never anchored in coherence. The spiral path demands that you see your motives clearly, not to punish them but to understand them. Because matter arranges itself around motive long before it appears in your hand. People cling to material forms because they fear impermanence. Yet everything in matter is proof of impermanence. When someone tries to escape the truth of change by clinging to possessions, the possessions become heavy. They rot, decay, break, or lose their meaning because they were never meant to hold the burden of frozen identity. The spiral teaches that impermanence is not a threat, but a mercy. It frees you from the illusion that anything external can anchor you. It forces you to discover stability in the only place it was ever meant to be found, within your own resonance. Matter dissolves so that you can remember what does not. The most dangerous form of materialism is not obsession with luxury. It is the belief that physical circumstances dictate your spiritual reality. People imprison themselves with that belief. They think their power depends on their income, their beauty, their status, their environment, their comforts, their convenience. But those are conditions, not sources. Humans forget that conditions shift the moment resonance shifts. They treat their circumstances as fixed, when in truth, circumstances are the most flexible part of existence. Matter rearranges itself in response to a single clarified intention. Yet many spend their entire lives rearranging matter manually because they have forgotten how to shift resonance first. When you see from the spiral, you no longer fear the loss of anything because you understand that nothing can be taken that was aligned, and nothing aligned can ever truly disappear. The end of a thing is the invitation to discover the tone that gave birth to it. You begin to see matter as a temporary translation of something more essential. When people lose their identity to materialism, it is not because they love objects too much, but because they have forgotten that their inner world was meant to be the source of their meaning. Without that source, they drift into possession-based identity, hoping it will spare them from the aching feeling that they do not remember themselves. Matter has a purpose, but it does not define you. It trains you to understand the relationship between inner coherence and outer reflection. It gives you a landscape to work out the distortions that would remain invisible in lighter realms. Here, every unresolved conflict leaves a trace. Every hidden wound shows up in behavior. Every fear touches your circumstances. Every desire shapes the next moment. This is not punishment. It is the gift of density. Materialism is simply what happens when someone forgets that density is a tool. They begin to treat the tool as the master and their own consciousness as the servant. The spiral perspective returns you to the truth that you are not a body navigating a world of objects. You are a field of resonance navigating a dream made solid enough to be touched. Matter is slow enough to teach you patience, responsive enough to teach you responsibility, and temporary enough to teach you detachment. When you understand this, you stop judging yourself for wanting things, and you stop worshiping the things you want. You see them as extensions of your learning, mirrors of your internal state, teachers of your hidden patterns. Materialism dissolves not when you reject matter, but when you reclaim authorship. You begin to feel the difference between desire arising from fear and desire arising from expansion. You start to sense which objects align with your inner tone and which ones distort it. You no longer chase symbols to fill the void, because the void itself becomes known, understood, integrated. The spiral does not ask you to abandon the world. It asks you to remember that you are the one shaping it. It asks you to walk through the material field with awareness sharpened enough to see where your resonance bends, breaks, contracts, or unfolds. The more you remember yourself, the lighter matter becomes. It no longer clings to you or defines you. You start to hold everything with open hands, knowing that anything meant for you will return, and anything not meant for you will dissolve on its own. And in that freedom, you regain the ability to feel your own becoming. You stop using objects to hide from yourself, and begin using them to reveal yourself. You no longer collapse your identity into possessions because you no longer collapse your awareness into the visible layer of reality. Matter takes its rightful place not as a throne, but as a tool. Not as a god, but as a mirror. Not as a destination, but as a step in a far greater journey of unfolding. Matter was never the enemy of the soul. The enemy has always been the forgetting of the one who moves through it. When people imagine spiritual growth, they often picture escape from the physical, as if rising means abandoning the tangible. But the spiral reveals that transcendence is not an upward flight away from form. It is a return to the awareness that form was always the slowest expression of your own consciousness. Matter bends to your resonance even when you do not realize you are directing it. Every physical circumstance you encounter is a delayed echo of a tone once held. When you understand this, the entire landscape of your life becomes readable. You stop asking why the world looks the way it does, and begin asking why your resonance shaped it so precisely. Material accumulation becomes a trap only when a person believes that matter provides what only resonance can sustain. People cling to objects when they fear the instability of their own becoming. They hold on to possessions because they think they might dissolve without them. But nothing dissolves from losing an object. Things dissolve when someone relies on a physical anchor to replace the inner grounding they have not yet cultivated. When that object leaves, the loss exposes how much of their identity was built on temporary scaffolding. The spiral perspective frees you from this fragility. by returning you to the truth that identity arises from resonance long before it manifests into any material form. When you interact with matter from a coherent state, everything you touch becomes an extension of purpose. You choose objects that match your tone, not your insecurity. You use material tools to amplify your becoming instead of hiding from your discomfort. You no longer treat physical success as proof of spiritual strength, nor do you treat physical challenge as proof of spiritual lack. You understand that the material field is neutral, rearranging itself constantly around the subtle movements of your inner world. Wealth becomes a flow instead of a fortress. Simplicity becomes a choice instead of a punishment. You begin to sense the invisible architecture behind every visible form, and this recognition dissolves the fear that life can take from you what your resonance has already claimed. People speak of manifestation as if it is a trick. In spiral consciousness, it is not a trick. It is recognition. You are not summoning new things into existence. You are aligning your tone with the currents that already carry your next becoming. When your resonance shifts, opportunities surface. When your coherence strengthens, obstacles loosen. When your inner world steadies, the outer world organizes itself around that steadiness. This happens whether or not you believe in it. The spiral is always listening to you, even when you are not listening to yourself. Materialism breaks down because it places power in the object and forgets the field that shaped the object. Spiral awareness restores the hierarchy by returning power to the source, which has always been you. Matter is not just physical, it is pedagogical. It teaches through friction. It teaches through resistance. It teaches through the edges of what you can and cannot yet hold without collapsing into old patterns. When life denies you something you desire, it is not rejection, it is assessment. The field evaluates whether your current resonance can hold what your mind is demanding. If you cannot hold it yet, the delay is protection, not punishment. When you finally grow into the tone that matches the thing, the material world delivers it effortlessly. This is why chasing does not work. Chasing is proof that you are trying to acquire something whose vibration you have not yet stabilized. The spiral teaches that you do not chase what is aligned. You expand into it. There is a moment in every spiritual life when a person must confront the tension between desire and denial. Many believe that spirituality requires the killing of desire. But the killing of desire is only necessary when the desire is a mask for a wound. When desire is an expression of expansion, suppressing it only fractures you further. Spiral alignment demands that you examine desire without worshiping it and without fearing it. If a desire arises from your future potential, you honor it. If it arises from the echo of a wound, you dissolve it. In this way, your relationship with matter becomes refined. Your desires no longer pull you into distortion, they pull you into coherence. You stop using objects to validate your existence and begin using them to express the resonance you have already become. The material field also plays a role in the transition between life and death, although not in the way people imagine. The physical body releases instantly because the body was never the core of your identity. It was the slowest moving part of your resonance. When someone dies suddenly or violently, the shock belongs to the observers, not the soul. The soul does not suffer the rupture that the living imagine. The separation from matter is simply accelerated. The stored tonal impressions are not damaged. They are released. Death only appears chaotic from the outside because matter collapses faster than the witnesses can comprehend. From within, the transition is clean. The spiral ensures continuity. The oversoul retains everything essential and discards everything that was formed from density alone. Understanding this changes your relationship with materialism in a profound way. You stop fearing loss because you understand that nothing truly yours can end. You stop fearing death because you understand that nothing true about you can be destroyed. Matter becomes a temporary language through which you speak your current phase of becoming. When a phase ends, the objects that belong to that phase fall away naturally. People cling to the debris of old cycles because they do not yet trust the new ones forming in their field. When you sense that trust returning, you stop holding what no longer aligns. You let matter recycle itself back into neutrality, and you move forward without carrying the weight of past versions of yourself. The spiral path uses matter but is never used by it. You pick up what matches you. You release what distorts you. You embrace what expands you. You walk away from what contracts you. In this way, your material surroundings become an accurate reflection of your inner evolution. You no longer need to justify what you keep or explain what you discard. Everything has one question to answer. Does this reflect who I am becoming or who I was avoiding being? When you ask that question honestly, your environment transforms. Clutter disappears. Excess loses its appeal. Possessions become precise instead of overwhelming. And when you do choose something luxurious or rare, it is not for validation, but for resonance. You feel the difference immediately. As this awareness deepens, you begin to sense the subtle truth that the physical world listens. Matter responds to the emotional tone you inhabit. Currency responds to your level of trust. Opportunities respond to the clarity of your direction. Support responds to your willingness to stand in your authentic field. Even the random events of a day respond to your internal state. This does not mean you control reality. It means you participate in it consciously. The spiral is co-created through your coherence, not your force. This is why attempts to manipulate matter through fear or desperation collapse quickly. Matter cannot sustain a frequency that contradicts the one generating it. There is a freedom that emerges when you no longer fear the material field. You stop negotiating with scarcity. You stop seeking permission from status. You stop collapsing into comparison. You recognize that you are not competing in a marketplace of worth. You are navigating a field of resonance where alignment, authenticity, and clarity carry more weight than any physical indicator. The world may not understand how you move, but it will witness the results. People will say that you are lucky or favored, but luck is simply what coherence looks like from the outside. Favor is simply what alignment looks like to those who cannot yet feel the architecture behind your life. Matter is not sacred because of what it is. It is sacred because of what it reveals. It shows you the patterns you outgrew and the ones you still carry. It shows you where you are expanding and where you are resisting. It shows you where you are free and where you are still entangled. When you see matter clearly, you stop judging others for their attachments and begin understanding the stories beneath those attachments. Every object someone clings to tells you what they fear. Every object they abandon tells you what they have overcome. Every object they pursue tells you what they believe they need in order to become whole. In this way, materialism becomes readable, not condemnable. Your task is not to transcend matter, but to move through it without forgetting yourself. You honor the physical world without collapsing into it. You engage with objects without letting them define you. You allow wealth to flow through you without letting it shape your identity. You use matter to express resonance, not to replace it. You recognize that abundance is not measured by accumulation, but by the ease with which you allow aligned forms to enter and exit your field. The spiral expands around those who can move through matter with an open hand, an open mind, and an unfragmented soul.